Welcome members to our Economy and Development Select Committee meeting. We'll move straight into agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. Councillor Evans, and no other apologies are noted. We have Councillor Easton and Councillor Smith also joining us, so welcome to both members. Moving on to agenda item 2, which is declarations of interest. Okay, as and when, thank you. And agenda item 3, which is to confirm and sign the minutes of the previous meeting, of which we've got 3 sets of minutes. We'll work from the first set of minutes first, which is the 21st of April 2015. Could members let me know if there's any issues to do with accuracy or matters to follow? Okay, Councillor Dovey. Any other members have anything? No, move it. Okay, move. And on to the second set of minutes, which are Tuesday the 4th of June. I've got one, oh sorry, Councillor Dovey. I've got one action I just wanted to double check, which is about suggesting that an item be brought to the committee in September from Mark Hand regarding the planning and tourism update. I just wondered if we had any follow-up in terms of when that's likely to come forward, because obviously it's not coming to this meeting.
For the work programme, we'll have a check.
Okay, so we'll go through that on the work programme.
Apart from that, Madam Chairman, I couldn't see anything the matter with it. It's a little
Councillor Possum.
Yes, I'd just like to commend the officers for the way they're presenting the conclusions to each section. I think that's a major improvement, and it really highlights the, the deliberation of the meeting. And I'd like to compliment them and yourself, Chair, on that.
Totally agree, Councillor Prosser. We raised that previously as well, saying that it's such an easier format to access, and it's great to have the actions clearly set out in the minutes as well as the conclusion. So totally agree, and it'd be good to convey that back to all officers. Councillor Wintle.
Just the so members queried the redundancy costs relating to children and young people. A breakdown in redundancy figures by age was requested, and this is action, but we haven't seen or heard anything about it. I haven't received anything.
Okay, we'll take that back to follow that one up then, Councillor Wintle, and ask that to be distributed to members. The one other just quick query on those minutes as well is that Councillor Evans was appointed to the Section 106 working group from this committee, so it might be helpful just to note an update from Councillor Evans. That might fit in with that agenda item that's going to be forthcoming on Section 106 and still anyway. So, so are there any other issues relating to those minutes, or are we happy to move those? Okay. And the final set of minutes for us to approve are those from the Tuesday, the 14th of July. That was a joint select committee meeting with strong communities to look at the solar park paper. Councillor Prosser?
Yes, Chair, I'm not mentioned anywhere in the apologies or the presence. I'm pretty sure I was there, but I'm sure you can check on the video, but I'm pretty sure I was there. So if you'd like to add my name to those present, please. Thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, Chairman, I was at the meeting. I noticed you've got RM Edwards at the top, so it probably should read DL Edwards, because I did declare an interest. And I also noticed that Councillor Jordan gave his apologies, and yet he's listed as being present. Perhaps that needs to be resolved.
Okay, thank you, members, for that. And again, echoing Councillor Prosser's points about the previous set of minutes, the way in which the recommendations we had as a joint select committee were presented to Cabinet was extremely good. And I do feel that our thoughts were very well conveyed and taken on board by the Cabinet for the paper then, which was brought to full council. So thank you, and well done on that, which is great. So are members happy to move those minutes then? Yeah.
Yes, move, Chair.
What, in other committees? Or
well,
The style of the minutes be rolled out across
Yeah, I think Hazel just mentioned that the STAR is going to be rolled out across other committees as well, or it has been, so yeah. Okay, Councillor Eason?
Sorry, it's on those present. It's showing those present of the members of strong communities separate as well to those present for the meeting, but Councillor Webb isn't on the present for the meeting. Yet we've got other members who are shown who are not there. So I think that there's a good need to look at that attendance list and correct it if it's for all the errors.
We'll go back and double check the list from both sides of the committee perspective and just double check the accuracy on those. Okay. So we're happy to move those set of minutes as they stand. Okay. Right, thank you, committee. And we've got another set of minutes. Sorry, I missed off. I thought we only had the 3 there. Wednesday, the 29th of July. Any issues relating to that set of minutes? All okay? Okay, so move those. Great. Okay, thanks, members. So we've run through all 4 sets of minutes that we needed to approve and have done so. So we move on to the substantive item on the agenda, which is our scrutiny of the cultural review, and we're receiving a report by the consultants, Amian, today. So if we could ask the consultants and the lead officer to join us for this item. Sorry, we're on item 5 now, Councillor Winton. Yeah. But we need to, there's an item which follows directly now, which is to exclude press and public. So as soon as the officers and consultants are in, I'll ask for the rationale for why we're excluding press and public. We will vote on that. And then... Yes. We'll ask them to come in and explain agenda item 5 if you like, but obviously that will then lead to the presentation, which will potentially be in closed session. Okay, members, before we move on to agenda item 5, I think it might be worthwhile we all just introducing ourselves in terms of those that have just joined us in the room, particularly the consultants on this report. So I'm the chair, Councillor Sarah Jones.
Hazel Eilert of Scrutiny.
Sarah King, Democratic Services.
Councillor Susan White.
Councillor Douglas Edwards, member for Growfield, Abergavenny.
Councillor John Prosser, member for Priory Abergavenny.
Councillor Alan Wintle, member for Droitwich and Monmouth.
Councillor David Dovey, member for St King's Mark in Chepstow.
Councillor Bob Greenland, Cabinet responsibility for enterprise, leisure and culture.
Councillor Easton, a visiting member of the committee, member for Dewstow.
County Councillor Val Smith, observing.
Rachel Rogers, Monmouthshire Museums.
Kelly Byrne, Enterprise.
Ian Saunders, Head of Tourism, Leisure and Culture.
Chris Melia, Amian Consulting.
Thank you, everyone. So we'll move on to agenda item 5. I'll ask Ian to present this report. There have been some questions over whether this report, the cover report, should have been exempt itself. So perhaps it would be worth just addressing that before explaining the rationale behind why we would want to potentially exempt public and press for the remainder of the meeting. So I'll hand over to you, Ian, if that's okay.
Yes, good afternoon. The reason we've done this covering report is obviously we've been asking Amion to present to us some recommendations for our cultural service review. They have put back a paper which has given us some recommendations and some discussion points for us to consider. The reason we wanted this to be excluded from public realm is because of obviously the sensitivity that some of the suggestions could provoke with not only our staff but with stakeholders and also our communities. So we realise that there are areas that need further discussion. They need further working practice to make sure that we're completely clear on our progress, but also the fact that the piece of work that we've asked to be done has actually extended now into a broader. It's looked at opportunities across tourism and leisure and culture, and I think Kelly will speak a little bit about how the broader piece of work is progressing and what we're looking to put into place.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I can just reinforce some of those comments that Ian has made. I think in the first instance, one of the reasons why we advocated for pink papers today is that we felt it was very important, members, for you to see openly and transparently the recommendations that Amion have devised with regard to the future of our cultural services. This isn't the Council's response to them today, but this is a genuine point of engagement. If it wasn't a point of engagement, what you would be seeing today might be different. We may have changed the recommendations, we may have played with them, we may have put a different slant on them, and we haven't done that. We wanted you to see them sincerely as the consultants have actually generated them. And the second point, I think, is a much wider one. We can't forget about staff. We can't forget about the individuals who have a tremendous commitment and passion for this service. And I wouldn't want them to feel discomforted by seeing recommendations that may not be the ones that we actually end up implementing. And then, as Ian said, I suppose the third thing for us to take into account is that actually, as we've been doing this piece of work over the last 12 months or so, what we've recognised with increasing budget pressures is that we can't just apply this thinking to cultural services. Increasingly, we're going to have to look at leisure, we're going to have to look at outdoor education, some of the stuff that we do around events and possibly other services. Because what is increasingly clear to me as the Chief Officer for this directorate is probably this time next year, we're just not going to have the finances to fund these services in the same way. So there is a wider piece of work, and I think it's right and proper you have tranche 1 today, but there will be further waves. So today in context is the first part of a much wider process.
I'll move to Councillor Eason, but firstly, so we can be clear, so it's not being asked to make any recommendations as a committee today because we haven't got a pre-decision scrutiny paper as such. This is an opportunity for policy development as part of a wider process, and that's what the paper is in front of us today. Councillor Eason.
Thank you, Chair. It'll be up to the committee to agree or disagree on the recommendations, whether they stay in pink papers. I won't be involved in that. But it concerns me that you've produced a covering report which has some detailed information, which will in future require some, as you say, pre-decision scrutiny. Why hasn't that gone in pink papers as well? That's my concern.
I think you're absolutely right, Councillor Rees, and I think the covering report refers to this much wider piece of work. Now, reference to that is already out. It's part of the budget mandate consultation and engagement process. I've devised a cabinet report which is open on the matter, which goes next week for decision making. So I don't think we can shy away from that bit. The bit I am particularly keen to emphasise to you is there are members of staff out there who are working tremendously hard, generating real value for our county, and I wouldn't want them to be worried at this stage about things that may not come to fruition.
Members, are there any other comments on this? Otherwise, we'll move to vote on whether or not on item 6, which is to exclude the press and public from the meeting for the consideration of the remainder of the meeting. Okay, so members, all those in favour of doing so? So that's the case. So we won't be live streaming now. So if we can turn the live streaming off.